When we're first introduced to Azula, it seems impossible that she could be anything less than evil incarnate. She smiles as Zuko's father burns his face in a flashback, and the only other time that she's mentioned in Season 1 is when Zuko is comparing himself to her. Quoting his father, Zuko says that she was born lucky, while he was lucky to be born. We thus have this very vivid picture of Azula as this uncaring, callous perfectionist, and Season 2, far from allaying these fears, only confirms them. In the first scene where she speaks, a captain comes to her and says that the ship cannot land because of the tides. Sneering, she asks if the tides command the ship, or if they will think twice about killing him if she pitches him overboard. Recoiling in fear, the man goes back and obeys her orders. There is no reason for her to be this antagonistic. It doesn't help her. It's not cunning and practical. It's just pompous and arrogant. When lightning bending leaves a single hair of hers out of place, she rages. Almost perfect is not good enough for her. She has to be perfect. True, she does have a few hilarious moments, such as when she does an impression of Zuko in episode 208, The Chase. Aang does not laugh, but it could possibly be because he's just too tired. I laugh at that every time, it's very accurate. Still, her humor is mean-spirited. She understands people, that's true, but this understanding does not make her compassionate. Instead, it's purely practical. She gets what drives people because it makes victory through manipulation much easier. Think about what she does to Sokka in episode 311, The Day of Black Sun, Part 2. Sokka is more strategic than Toph and Aang, thus realizing that Azula isn't actually trying to win. She's just trying to run out the clock and waste their time so that the eclipse ends, the sun comes back out, and she gets her firebending powers again. Not happy at being found out, Azula could have given up. She could have conceded, but she doesn't. Instead, she concocts yet another plan. She taunts Sokka, saying that Suki waited for him, but he never came. Sorrowful and enraged, Sokka rushes at her. Azula smirks and readies a dagger, and if it were not for Toph's quick thinking, Sokka would have died. This is the kind of person Azula is presented as for most of the show. Unlike Zhao, or to a lesser extent Ozai, Azula is not blinded by pride and arrogance. She is cold and calculating. Like a viper, she lies in wait, judging when she'll get the perfect opportunity to strike. She does not seem capable of compassion or tenderness. Even outright joy is rare. She does not find pleasure in accomplishments. The pleasure is in the achieving. Zuko does not believe this person is capable of love, or tenderness, or empathy, or any of the virtues we like to ascribe to people. Instead, he views her as a monster. Even Iroh, who's willing to tolerate Zuko's surly angst and irascible temper, has no kind words for Azula. When Zuko, who as he grows up does have a little sliver of compassion for Azula, asks if Uncle is going to stop him, Uncle says no, she's crazy and she needs to go down. Uncle sees nothing in Azula or Ozai but the desire to dominate and conquer. This is true of Ozai, but is it completely true of his daughter? Well, let's investigate. Is it impossible for Azula to join Team Avatar? I don't think so. It would be a much longer road to that point than we saw with Zuko. I don't think it could be one season. It would have to be at least 2, maybe 3 full seasons to make it as affecting as the Zuko transformation was. But to say it's impossible would be to go against the spirit of Avatar, which does not deal in absolutes, except for Ozai and Vaatu, who are irredeemable monsters. One thing to note, even if Azula were redeemed, she would not suddenly start behaving like other people. Her mind does not work like that. Now, this is not necessarily bad. She's bold and ambitious, and she's a brilliant strategist. You completely understand why Ty Lee, in episode 305, The Beach, opines that she greatly admires Azula. But Azula has difficulty connecting with people. Now, that's not to say it's impossible, just that it's harder for her. Azula is not perhaps as cold-hearted as Ozai, Iroh, young Zuko, and even herself think that she is. Compared to Ozai, she demonstrates at least a little more respect for Zuko. Now, that is a low bar to clear, and I do not want to give her credit for stumbling over it. But I'm not trying to be an apologist for her. I'm just saying that I'm not entirely comfortable classifying this teenager from a broken home with mental problems as 100% irredeemably vile. When she wants Zuko to join her at the end of Season 2, she does not shout at him and try to dominate him. Instead, she makes her case, then steps away, and lets him make up his mind. You could say that self-interest, and only self-interest, inspires her decision, and that the same could be said for a scene in episode 305, The Beach, wherein she comforts Ty Lee after making her cry. But it's not accurate to say that Azula does not care about people at all. She just has a hard time relating to people, especially because of her superiority complex and thinking herself just so far above the ordinary person. Team Avatar would never accept her unless Zuko forced them to. Zuko sees the potential for good in Azula, especially after the end of the series. In the comic trilogies, in midst of the darkness of her soul, he sees a spark, a glimmer of light and hope, and even tenderness, maybe. A major reason why Zuko cannot be as dismissive of Azula as Iroh is that he has recently undergone his own major transformation. But his uncle underwent a major transformation too, even if it was a lot longer ago. There is another reason Zuko is more sympathetic toward Azula, and it's a lot more interesting. She cares more about him than she does about anyone else, except their mother. Again, this is a low bar to clear, and I don't think it would be accurate to say that she likes him, even. But she is not always vile to him. In episode 302, she tricks Zuko into revealing that he went to see his uncle. But when she says that she wants what is best for him, she seems mostly sincere. If they discovered that Zuko had gone to see Iroh, that would only be good for her, practically. Yet she wants him to stay out of trouble, and she doesn't tell anyone that he went to see Iroh. She has a suspicion that the Avatar is alive, but she never tries to find this out for herself. Knowing Azula's competitive drive, I'm sure she would rather follow her instincts than live a sheltered, pampered life in the Fire Nation. Yet, although she sets Zuko up to fail, she then sits and waits instead of encouraging his failure. I think a very small part of her has compassion for Zuko. In episode 305, The Beach, she shares a few heartfelt, solemn words with him before encouraging him to leave their family's beach house and all the broken dreams it represents and come down to the beach with her. There's no reason for her to do this practically. It does not benefit her. No, she does this because she shares his poignant reflections on their childhood. And I don't think this necessarily has to be a one-off thing. I think there would be a few more moments like this between them if they spent more time together. Zuko certainly hopes so. Even if Zuko convinced her to join Team Avatar, she would likely still be introverted. And yes, I consider Azula sort of introverted despite all the speeches she gives and arrogant postures she takes. She's not really comfortable with other people. And she is certainly not comfortable in social situations where she's not trying to win something. Aaron Ahas, the head writer on Avatar: The Last Airbender, and the showrunner of The Dragon Prince, a show I highly recommend y'all watch, said he imagined Azula being over-polite and apologizing for everything if she ever did join Team Avatar. And I can see this. She would certainly be a lot more low-key and more self-doubting if she joined and accepted that she had made a lot of mistakes in her past. Unlike Zuko, who has an essentially good nature that was shrouded by his desire to gain his father's approval, Azula would have to create an entirely new sense of herself. This would be very difficult, as she has never been less than perfect. And she would have to renounce that perfection. She would have to renounce the entire system of values she has believed in since birth. It would be hard for her to ever trust herself again, but Zuko would be there for her, and sooner or later, with time and compassion, I think she would finally be alright. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's a brilliant, clever, wonderful show that's finally getting the respect it deserves. It's not content to just judge its characters. Instead, it goes beyond and asks what circumstances made them like this. So anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.